Welcome to Squirrel, the podcast for distracted writers, hosted by Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. Hey everybody, we're still in spooky season, and this week we've got a really good one for you. I'm Jody L. Milner. I'm with my co-host.
I'm Candace Thomas.
And today I'm excited because we get to talk all about monsters and villains. And this is my episode, and I had a lot of fun kind of geeking out about it.
You're a little giddy about this episode.
Maybe a tiny bit giddy about it. And so our focus today is really like what monsters and villains are versus what an antagonist is, and like how to create them on the page. I feel often our best stories are centered around like defeating a villain or a monster. And this villain or monster needs to capture our attention, and they need to run away with it. They need to be something we love to hate and we love to read about.
I'll take that definition.
It's not a bad definition. It's not a good definition.
No, that's fine. But as we discuss things, I think that you'll get more of my opinion on what a villain or monster might be.
So I think we first need to lay down the definitions and see if we can kind of put lines between what we feel monsters are versus what we feel villains are versus what we view as just an antagonist. Because those are very different things. And a lot of times people will interchange the words, meaning one meaning the other, but there is a distinction between the two. So how would you first define just a monster?
You define your monster first.
You want me to define my monster first? So monsters generally aren't human. I think most of the time we see monsters as things that are more like animals or more like aliens or more like something that's maybe human adjacent. Like they might be human shaped, but they're definitely not human.
Okay. I mean, I'll accept that. For me, a monster is just something that is unnatural, unexplained, and unexpected. So I put like it's creature driven. So you say like not human, I get that, but I am evolving it a little bit to something that could be human but more creature-esque. There's a lot of people, a lot of villains. I mean, well, we'll go on. Go on.
We'll get there. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Okay.
I also feel that a lot of monsters have almost a gross factor. A lot of times there's going to be something about them that's kind of gross.
Oh.
Extra sets of teeth, like dripping slime.
I'm going to disagree with you.
I mean, there's some monsters that look completely human, like that, but
sure, Swamp Monster like has a human-esque thing. I don't know, and it's supposed to be gross. Got it, but Cookie Monster isn't gross.
No, I'm not talking about Cookie Monster.
He's a monster. Is he not a monster?
Oh, fine.
His monster is in his name. So.
Okay, well, if that's our monster, then what's our villain? Do you want me to start with mine this time, or do you want to start with yours?
I want you to start with yours every time. This is your episode.
Fine.
So,
okay, so for me, villains are like, it seems like they always have superhuman capabilities. Either they're really, really smart, or they have a lot of resources to help them do their dastardly deeds, or they're megamaniacs. Like, there's something about them that's always a little bit super. And so,
I think you're talking like, I think that you're getting a super villain.
Well, they're super villains, but then you have standard villains. It seems like they're always like, they have a little bit more than your protagonist. So like if your protagonist is smart, your villain is just a little smarter. And so it's harder for your main character to defeat the villain because they know they're at a disadvantage. It feels like the villain always has to have a tiny bit more to make them truly worth defeating. If they're easy to defeat, then the story's going to be kind of lame.
My version of a villain is actually quite different. And you may think that this is antagonistic, but I feel this is villainistic, okay? That a villain is someone who thinks that they are doing, like, the right thing. They should have that that kind of vision. That whatever they're doing, it's for themselves and it's what they feel is right.
Actually, I don't argue with you on that. I feel that villains usually have a goal that's external to anything that the main character might be doing. So like maybe their goal is to take over the government or take over a company to get a lot of money because money is power.
Well, have you not gone through your story from your villain's perspective?
That's how my entire third book got created, actually.
See? Yeah. So understanding your villain's perspective in what they feel is right. Like if Thanos thought he was doing something right?
He did.
So he's definitely a villain.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I mean. Why a villain might their vision is different, and a protagonist is not. I don't see that as their same vision in what doing what they feel is right.
And often I think they're going to have a goal that's very related. Whereas so Thanos wanted to get all of the Infinity Stones so he could do the snap because he felt like that was going to solve the problem of having too many people because he had this trauma life story about people starving. And he's like, I don't want this to never happen again. My solution is sorry, spoilers for all of you. I want to make it so this trauma that happened to me can't happen again. So he has this goal that he believes is going to solve everything. Is it a great goal? Not really. But he's determined. He's very determined. And so Peter Quill and the rest of the Avengers and all the other people that end up taking Thanos down, their goal is to stop Thanos because they know that it's in the greatest interest for him to not do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the goals are adjacent, but the villain's goal is not I want to snap my fingers and get rid of the Avengers. It's to half the population of the galaxy, or the universe.
Yeah. So tell me then your protagonist definition.
I'm going to steal from writing excuses. No, that would be bad. The protagonist is the person that goes protagging. That's so helpful.
Is that what they really say? Oh,
they came up the term protagging as a way of encapsulating the definition of the person who does the action within the story to reach the main character goal. The protagonist and the main character are the same. We will use them interchangeably. Do not be confused.
So tell me what an antagonist would be.
Okay, so we've talked about monsters. We talked about villains. Antagonist is anything that gets in your protagonist's way. So an antagonist it could be a force, it could be a storm. It could be the other team competing for the same trophy. An antagonist is something that prevents our main character from reaching their goal. Now, that could be a monster. Monsters are antagonists. It could be a villain. Villains are antagonists. Just the definition of antagonist is any force or person or even internal struggle that gets in the way of our main character for them to reach their story goal.
So I kind of get that. So, I find that it's a device that we use in story creating that pushes our hero to be better and to do better.
Yes, because if our hero does not have things keeping him from getting his goal, then the story is going to be kind of pointless.
Okay, what's the difference then? You tell me. So the difference between a villain and an antagonist.
So a lot of people will try to use villain and antagonist as different things, but a villain is an antagonist. And so I think if we're going to get kind of a granular look at it, if you have a story that's about sports teams, you don't have a villain unless somebody else on the other team is just really, really egging specifically against the main character.
Sure, but let's talk more about monsters and villains, not about sports teams.
Oh, sorry.
I don't want to talk about
capture that
teams.
Squirrel and drag him back.
No, a villain is for me is a selfish, tunnel-visioned person, someone or something who will do whatever it takes to get what they want. That's a villain to me, not an antagonist.
No, and That's how I would define villain too. And I would add on, in the process, they may cause havoc and harm. They don't really care if things get hurt along the way. People get hurt along the way.
Yeah, an antagonist is a catalyst of everything. I like a polarized magnet, the pushing force that drives the story. So, yeah, there you go.
I think we agree on our own separate terms.
Well, I just want to explore villains probably in another episode, just like a huge thing.
We could have a lot of fun with that.
So, yeah. Oh, right.
So we need to talk about some, and now a word from our sponsor.
A witch is born when from her is torn something greater than her soul. Once upon a time, there was a young girl who lived near an enchanted forest with her sister and father. One day, while her father was gone selling firewood to the neighboring villages, her sister fell ill. Out of desperation, the young girl ventured into the forest for help, and there she found a woman who gave her everything her soul desired. Ambrosine lives next to an enchanted wood, which is no big deal when you know how to spot a magic hoax nest and trap nasty little night fairies, and certainly no big deal when there is not even a witch in the woods. When her little sister Rosaline encounters a strange new creature, she falls asleep and a dangerous fever dream threatens her life. With their mother dead and their father gone, Ambrosine gambles with the deepest desires of her soul as she fights to save her sister. Start off the witchiest month of the year with the fascinating and spooky prequel to C.M. Adler's series, The Witches of Grimm. Free on BookFunnel.
Some memorable villains and monsters. And so I've pulled out some monsters that stand out to me. And so probably my top one is the Alien Queen from Aliens. Just xenomorph alien.
Super creepy. Yeah.
Very creepy. Everything about the Alien Queen is monster. Super violent, super gross, very distinct. Like you can pick them out from anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I did not get very far in what I thought about monsters because I could only think about Frankenstein's monster. It was the idea of creating something like that is a terrifying idea to me. So it's not the supernatural alien type monster. It's actually someone that could walk around and be just like us.
Creepy.
I know, right?
Some other monsters from really old, I think this was a 60s movie. It was called The Thing.
I remember The Thing.
The Thing was gross.
It was not a 60s movie. It was the 1980s. So
my bad.
Yeah, I've seen The Thing. It was frightening. That's a John Carpenter movie. I know too much.
Clearly
about The Thing.
Like I don't watch a lot of monster movies.
It was The Blob. Maybe
were you
thinking about The Blob? The Blob was 1960s.
I might have been thinking about The Blob.
No, The Thing. Holy crap! That's a scary movie. That is a scary movie.
And I think the whole undefinableness of it made it even worse. Like Pinhead from Hellraiser, I think that's a very stereotypical monster, but I think his description, he's the guy that has all the...
I know what he is. I know who he is, but I've never seen Hellraiser.
I pulled up a definition of him because I thought it was funny. So he's a Cenobite from a clan of sadomasochistic abominations who travel through time and space looking for flesh to defile. Like... That's just fun to say.
That person that wrote that tag, I'm very impressed.
I know, right?
Good job.
It's perfect.
I wrote some of the monsters that kind of that terrify me. The boar demon from Princess Mononoke.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Oh my gosh, that movie. And No Face. I mean, those are the things that kind of just that supernatural, a little bit. Yeah, they're creature-esque. Mm-hmm. But there's just an unknown quality to it that you don't. I mean, that's never really explained, and you never really understand. So, those are, and Grover. I put Grover as a monster that I adore.
He's a very proud monster. He doesn't have any evil goals, though.
No, he's so
just
cute.
Fuzzy.
Okay,
so those are some monsters. Now here we have some villains as well. And I had fun looking up some villains. So I think the top villain that came to mind for me was Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah. Okay.
Just
I will agree with that.
yeah.
Good job.
No
good.
discussion there.
Oh my gosh, no. Creepy. Oh, there's so many creepy things about that. Okay, go on.
We've got, of course, we need to have He Who Should Not Be Named.
Okay. Sure. Voldemort. I will say it.
You said it. No. Agent Smith from Matrix is an excellent villain.
Yes. And he is just all about himself. Mm-hmm. That's true.
And his goal is to protect the Matrix at all costs. It doesn't matter what happens to the people in there. I think he's an excellent example.
Mm-hmm. Good.
We've got Palpatine, also
Sure.
very, very egocentric. His
And
own
not
goals.
Darth Vader. You put Palpatine more than Darth Vader? No. Put Darth Vader. Palpatine is like the puppet behind, like, he's like puppet master, right? And he's controlling everything. But we are mostly afraid of Darth Vader. He didn't really turn into a good guy at the end. He didn't, everybody. Let's all be.
Fine. They're both villains.
Well, my villain I thought of was like Hans Gruber. I know that, I mean, from Die Hard. Oh my gosh. That's an excellent villain who he is all about himself, all doing what he wants.
Oh yeah. He's got a really good team. He's got, I think, the intelligence to pull off the heist like that. Mm-hmm. Like, I do like him as a villain. And he's debonair. I think, I know you've created some monsters and villains in your own work. Is there any of those that you'd like to share?
Okay. I wrote this cute little horror story, about, I call it a burgle. The burgle is a little creature that lives under your bed, and he crawls onto your chest when you're sleeping and steals your aspirations. And that to me is a terrifying idea, because then it's sucking out any kind of goal that you want to reach, or any kind of, so that I kind of put this into complacency for teenagers, that they've lost this childlike quality because this little creature stole it. He finds it yummy and tasty. Yeah.
It reminds me of the troll on Cat's Eye.
Well, that might have been a seed of where it came from, but the whole idea of something living under your bed is frightening to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You.
So I have a definite villain in my stories. I've got Roth. She starts out being referred to as an archdemoness because they don't understand what she is. And so they do a lot of stuff where they're like, we've got this thing that's been coming after us. We don't know exactly what she is. She's presenting herself as a demon, and they actually talk about she's got these elongated features, and she moves like a spider. And later you find out that she's got this much deeper story, and her goal is that she was trying so hard to protect people, because she used to be she was a really good member of the Stone Bearers. But she went too far in trying to protect them, where she felt the only way to protect them was to have the ability to control them. And so that turned her into a villain, because her goal ended up morphing into this thing that was, if I can control you, then I can protect you. But no one should be able to control anyone else. And so that's where she turned into a villain.
Idea too, being helpless.
So she wanted to be able to make people her puppets at will, to be able to and her scope was huge. She's like, what if we need an army on the other side of the continent to fight against something that's going to cause all this death and destruction? If I can control them, then I can just go out and just grab the people I need and amass them together and make them be an army and make them fight against their will, essentially. She's like, and I'll be able to respond faster, and we'll be able to put down these insurgencies before they can become a problem. And she just thought this was such a great idea, and everyone's like, no, you can't do this. And so she became a villain.
Yeah, good villain.
I was very proud of my villain. I'm very proud of her.
Good. I mean, my series has tons of villains. But my favorite is Brown Eyes. She's just everyone's favorite villain because she has her own agenda, and it's a jealous lover type kind of a villain who is going to try to wreak havoc. I do like that. But okay, what makes a good villain?
So for me, a good villain needs their own strengths. They need their own weaknesses. They need their own storyline. They cannot exist just to be there for the protagonist to fight against. They need to have a whole bunch of stuff going on that has nothing to do with the protagonist, or else they're just not a real person.
The protagonist's just in the way.
Yeah, it really. So there should be some scope of story of them being a real person. And on the other hand, your protagonist also needs those same things. These two characters do need to exist outside of each other and have a compelling story, and they're just getting in each other's way. Mm-hmm. So I feel that for some writers, it's really easy to make an amazing villain, and then the protagonist ends up being just reacting to the villain, and it makes the protagonist very weak.
Gotcha.
And then some writers are really, really good at making this amazing protagonist, and then the villain or the monster or whatever only exists to cause problems, but does not have anything else going on.
Like Skeletor?
Yes. And then the villain ends up really, really weak. And so they both need to be strong in their own goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think a good villain should not deviate from their course or their decision. Like you were saying about your villain, Roth, that she has a specific goal and she doesn't deviate from it. She doesn't soften. When I think about, because I think that creates a worthwhile story for the reader. So would you, I put this on here, you have Voldemort on there as the villain, but what do you think about Snape? Because in each book, we are looked at as Snape as being a villain.
Yeah, he's almost a mini boss.
But then there's a real villain always in the book that's not Voldemort. That at the end that they have their own agenda, their own goal, and they don't waver from it. But Snape is always looked at as
we start with Quirrell, and then we have
Patsy. I don't know.
It looks like he is doing everything he can to facilitate what that book's baddie needs to do. Mm-hmm. It feels like he's always doing things in favor of that. And then we learn his backstory, and oh my gosh, it takes your breath away of what he's secretly been doing all along. It's this perfect creation of a complicated character, which makes it so juicy. Because when you find out, it's just like shivers.
Yeah, no spoilers here. Okay, monsters. What makes a good monster?
So I think there's this tendency of people wanting to explain everything about their monsters because they're like, if people know all about the monster, it makes them scarier, but it's actually the opposite. I think maintaining the mystery about the monster and sustaining this tension of we don't know what it is. We know it's capable of one or two things, but everything else is a mystery. I think that makes them far scarier than if you spill it out on the page and you're like, here is our monster.
I don't like things explained. I think that one of the reasons I like Stephen King's short stories because they don't need the explanation. When he writes the big novels like it, and then it comes out, it's terrifying all the way up to the end, and then you have this creature that you're just like, oh, well, this is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. So.
Well, I mean, like in Quiet Place, we never really see them until the end. We just know one key fact. If you make noise, they come and kill you. Mm-hmm. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
And so I think, that idea is great. I think they need to have a defining trait. They need to have something that is the known that is compelling. In Bird Box, you really can't see them either, but they make you hallucinate wild, horrible things.
Gotcha.
They prey on your innermost fears. And I think having that as your one fact makes them scary. And so, there's a different movie where they do reveal the monster about 2/3 of the way through, and all of a sudden I'm like, this looks stupid. Like, I was afraid of the thing that looked like a jelly bean with legs. I'm like, why? I think if you play the showing of the monster too soon and it's disappointing, then you kind of kill the rest of the story.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get you. Where can I talk about Stranger Things for a second?
You can talk about Stranger Things.
Because I didn't prepare this in my notes, but Stranger Things, like I was very terrified by any of the supernatural things and going in to the upside down. But when I saw like the leaf monster, I don't even know, looked like Audrey 2. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I wasn't as terrified as I was with, I don't know, the upside down world and whatever was in there.
Fear of the unknown is compelling. It's huge.
What I think makes a good monster is when they defy what we know as factual or real. There's an exaggerated state of being or psychologically manipulating our reality in some way. That makes a good monster to me. And yes, not explaining what it is. We don't want to know, honestly. Our brain might want to connect that, but that's not how a good story would roll out. That's not how the intensity should. That's the end of the intensity, right? Is that moment of reveal. And I think good stories don't maybe short stories, but I think good stories don't need that.
I think a lot of care. You need to take a lot of care in how that climax happens, because if it's disappointing, then the whole story kind of flops. But I've loved this discussion. This has been fun. I think good villains and good monsters should be something that we really do love to be like, I want to see more hints about this thing, but I'm also terrified about seeing more about this thing because I don't know if it's going to reveal it. We want to keep thinking about it. Like, it should be something that creeps into our brain at 2 a.m. when we accidentally wake up and we're kind of not quite awake and we're like, crap, there was a shadow on the ceiling. Is that this thing that I just watched a show about? I think they should have this stickiness to them, that they should stick to your memory in a way that's undeniable. So
yeah, the monsters are something that fascinate us, right? They should stay with us after we finish the story. Absolutely. As you totally said, almost like they're still winning.
Oh, sure.
They're still creeping around in our imaginations. They live in lore and should never be discovered. There's my final thought.
All right. Well, next week, what are we talking about, Candy?
All right. So I love books. And I'm a bibliophile. And I thought it would be fun to talk about books with witches in it. But what I really wanted to discuss was not horror books, because I'm not really a horror reader. So if I'm going to read any kind of supernatural witchy book, I thought we would discuss about some of those things that aren't specifically terrifying and discover witches in a different way. So
that sounds delightful.
It's
I can't
fun.
wait to talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun.
All right. Remember, y'all, we have a Patreon. If you want to have all sorts of more goodies coming at you, please come and support us. Yes. This has been a terrific episode.
Yes, thank you for your monster discussion.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Squirrel Podcast for the Distracted Writer with Candace J. Thomas and Jody L. Milner. This episode was recorded at the Farmhouse Recording Studio. Please like and subscribe to our podcast for updates and new episodes, and find more information at our website, squirrelpodcast.com. Stay distracted, everyone.
But that's why we're so good friends.
Because you don't care that I disagree with you.
No, not at all.
Because I don't feel that you're right or I'm right. We just have different opinions.
That's how it's supposed to be, I believe.
I love it.
All right. If you're ready to rock and roll, I'm ready to hit the magic button.
Magic button.